If I can test you randomly for performance enhancing the next 2 years, and I never
Weight.
Put all the steroids, every steroid they
Whatever.
have.
I would watch.
Snake
Here's
venom,
the thing. I would
scorpion
watch
venom.
it.
It's just gonna get interesting.
You got 3 grown men sitting here talking about some bloody YouTuber fighting a gold medalist.
Yeah. And 2-time heavyweight champion of the world.
And I mean, like, forget that the 2-time, and I'm like, 2 grown men. I mean, like, can you believe this?
I'm not fully grown.
Yeah. And I'm like, I'm sitting here debating about a guy who got famous by playing YouTube. And I mean, like, are you kidding?
Whining and ducking.
You've let a little steroid man come up from middleweight.
Is Jake Paul natural? No. I can say that with pretty certain confidence in that statement, mainly because, as you heard me mention, I know a lot of the people he trains with, and I have heard things.
The atmosphere surrounding the impending clash between Anthony Joshua and Jake Paul has transcended the usual pre-fight hype, morphing into a controversial spectacle that sits somewhere between a legitimate sporting event and a morbid curiosity. As the boxing world turns its gaze toward this bizarre collision of worlds, the narrative isn't centered on tactical adjustments or southpaw stances, but rather on a single, glaring physical anomaly: the sudden, inexplicable, and frankly terrifying physical transformation of the YouTuber-turned-prize fighter. The conversation has shifted from "can Jake Paul box?" to "what exactly is fueling Jake Paul's body?" and the whispers in the gym have turned into shouts on the broadcast. It is a situation defined by whining and ducking, where the questions about performance-enhancing substances are being dodged with the same agility Paul hopes to employ in the ring, yet the accusations are landing heavier than any jab he has thrown to date. We are witnessing a moment where the integrity of the sport is colliding head-on with the unregulated chaos of influencer boxing.
One, Anthony killed this guy. Listen, a lot of questions, blah blah blah. Only one my answer. Anthony Joshua is Olympic champion. First. Jake Paul, it's sportsman, YouTuber, showman. Rolls Royce, Fiat.
When you look at the footage coming out of the training camps, the immediate reaction from seasoned insiders is not admiration. It is skepticism bordered by disbelief. There is a palpable sense that we are watching a biological experiment unfold in real time. You have people like credible boxing pundits and fighters looking at Paul and stating with absolute confidence that what they are seeing is not natural. This isn't just about protein shakes and hard work. The timeline simply doesn't add up. The accusation is blunt. Jake Paul is not natural. This sentiment is echoed by those who know the company he keeps, the trainers he employs, and the circles he moves in. The suggestion is that he has surrounded himself with a laboratory's worth of assistants, creating a physique that looks carved out of granite, but carries the heavy, watery burden of chemical enhancement.
With that substance is it's banned in competition under the WADA code. And under the WADA code, in competition represents the day of the fight, which you could actually essentially fail a test for that a week.
It's the steroid ban, narrative rising from the middleweight divisions of the past and slapping the face of the heavyweight division of the present. The discourse has become dominated by 3 grown men, commentators, experts, and fighters sitting around microphones, debating the legitimacy of a guy who gained his fame playing on YouTube, now stepping into the ring with a 2-time unified heavyweight champion of the world. It feels like a fever dream. The incredulity is shared by the likes of Oleksandr Usyk, a man whose boxing IQ is arguably the highest on the planet. Usyk, along with a legion of boxing insiders, is stunned, not by Paul's skill, but by his bulk. The sheer mass he has packed on in such a short window defies the physiological laws of traditional athletic progression. Everyone is questioning the speed of the improvement, leading to a consensus suspicion of steroid use. But the experts, the men who have dedicated their lives to the sweet science, remain unswayed by the aesthetics. They agree that no matter how terrifying the appearance, no matter how vascular the muscles or how wide the neck, Anthony Joshua's skill and experience far outweigh Paul's artificial gains. It effectively renders the fight heavily one-sided before the first bell even rings. For Usyk, the gap between Joshua and Paul is not physical, it is spiritual and technical. He highlights the chasm that exists between an Olympic gold medalist and a manufactured fighter. The consensus is that Paul's swagger, that unshakable confidence he projects on social media, is derived from the bottle, not the battle. It is fake bulk creating fake confidence. Against the Olympic-level talent of Joshua, those chemical gains are expected to evaporate. There is a brutal reality in boxing. Muscles require oxygen, and artificial muscles require even more. Paul is viewed as all show, a Rolls-Royce chassis with a Fiat engine, while Joshua is the genuine article. The sentiment from the purists is clear. Anthony Joshua is going to dismantle this guy. It's a clash between a sportsman and a showman, a killer and a YouTuber. The laughter in the background of these conversations is nervous, not because they fear for Joshua, but because they fear for the sport's reputation if this farce continues unchecked. John Fury, never one to mince words, has stripped away the diplomatic veneer, essentially stating that Jake Paul is using steroids to gain an edge. This isn't just a stray comment. It reflects what the entire boxing underworld has been whispering for months. Fans, usually the first to buy into the hype, have started to joke that Paul's sudden muscle gains look extreme, bordering on the cartoonish. It doesn't look like the hardened muscle of a fighter who has spent decades hitting the heavy bag. It looks like the swollen, water-retentive look of a bodybuilder in the off-season. This steroid narrative is dangerous for Paul because it reframes his confidence. When insiders bring up banned substances, it makes his bravado look like insecurity. It suggests he doesn't believe his natural ability is enough to survive, let alone win. He is doing illegal things to gain an edge, and in a twisted way, some pundits feel sorry for him. They see a man so desperate for validation that he is willing to risk his health and his reputation to construct a physical suit of armor that won't actually protect him from a straight right hand. Eddie Hearn brings a layer of administrative reality to the discussion, reminding everyone of the WADA code and the strict rules regarding banned substances. This isn't just gym gossip. This is about the legality of competition. When promoters start discussing the timing of drug tests and the glow time of substances, it fans the flames of suspicion to an inferno. The talk is no longer about fight strategy. It is about detection windows. Fans and fighters have pointed out that Paul's dramatic weight gain is statistically anomalous. The suspicion is that he is relying on artificial help rather than the grind of traditional training. The issue with these substances, as highlighted by the experts, is that they can be cycled. You can be clean on fight night, but have trained with the benefit of enhanced recovery and strength for 8 weeks prior. Anthony Joshua's blunt statement about drug cheating cuts through the noise. He reminds the world that in real professional boxing, if you are on drugs, you get banned. Simple as that. His words serve as a stark reminder of the consequences, casting a shadow over Paul's shape-shifting physique. The skepticism is reinforced by David Benavidez, who doesn't hold back in agreeing with the whispers. When a serious, active professional like Benavidez openly discusses the likelihood of Paul using PEDs, it underlines how bizarre Paul's transformation looks to the trained eye. Real fighters work up slowly over years. Their bodies harden and mature. Paul has seemingly inflated overnight. Fans remember the weight jumps that looked too quick to be clean, and these comments confirm their instincts. Paul's confidence suddenly sounds like artificial bravado. Even if he denies it until he is blue in the face, the fact that elite boxers are discussing it publicly makes the narrative impossible to dismiss. The accusation is that he never got off the gear, that the cycle has been continuous. Of course he's on steroids, is the casual refrain from many corners of the sport, treating it not as a shocking revelation but as an accepted fact of this circus. Johnny Nelson, a man who has seen everything in the sport, points out the fundamental flaw in Paul's strategy. Drugs don't make you a better fighter. This hits at the core of the issue. You can inject all the testosterone in the world, but you cannot inject timing, you cannot inject ring IQ, and you certainly cannot inject the ability to slip a punch by a millimeter. Paul's new physique might look intimidating on an Instagram reel, but Nelson reminds us that strength and fitness do not equal skill. We have watched Paul stack size and insist it makes him a threat, but the boxing fraternity knows that size gained artificially often leads to sluggishness and poor gas tanks. It makes Paul's hype seem shallow. A real fighter's progress is measured in their footwork and their feints, not the circumference of their biceps. The prevailing wisdom is that once the bell rings and the adrenaline dumps, the artificial strength will fade, and he will be left with a novice's skill set against a master's arsenal. Then there is the assessment from Tyson Fury, which effectively strips Paul of any perceived threat. Fury's exaggeration, that Joshua could beat Paul on his worst night, with broken ribs, 2 left feet, and the flu, is a devastating critique. It clarifies that Paul is not considered a legitimate danger to the heavyweight hierarchy. Fury isn't talking about size. He is talking about the levels of the game. Jake Paul's confidence is viewed as a social media illusion. His record, padded with wins against non-boxers and retired MMA fighters, has not prepared him for the reality of a unified heavyweight champion. Fans remember the dodged fights and the curated matchups. Fury's mockery underlines the fact that no amount of steroids or muscle hype can substitute for the decades of experience Joshua possesses. It is a brutal reality check. You cannot hack boxing. You cannot cheat the experience curve. The discussion deepens with Liam Goff bringing up the technicalities of substance testing. The fact that we are even discussing how long substances stay in the system depending on whether it is a urine, blood, or hair test proves how strong the public suspicion is. The conversation has moved from will he win to will he pass the test? This fuels the chatter.